Hello YouTube, this is Mike B, the Game Genie, and this is a video response to edt1138 and the Thrift Top 3 Tuesday, 3 favorite video game franchises of all time. I'm going to try to keep this short, but this is actually really difficult because this is such an exciting topic. I went and I looked at both Ed's video and the Thrift video. They hit off a couple of the big ones that everybody's going to say. Ed spoke about the Mega Man series, and I love the Mega Man series, but I thought about it afterwards. After Mega Man 6 on the normal Nintendo, when it got to the Super Nintendo, the Mega Man X series was great, but I kind of fell out of love with the Mega Man Legends series and Mega Man 64, so even though I love the original Mega Man series and Mega Man 2 is my favorite game probably of all time, I'm okay to leave that off. Super Mario is a little bit of a harder one, but after I looked through my own collection, I definitely saw that there's an opportunity for me to pick out 3 series that have stuck with me through my youth till today, where I had to buy the games pretty much the minute they come out, and I want to enjoy all of them. The first series I'm going to talk about is by Konami, and it is Castlevania. I love the Castlevania series, so much so I have all 3 original Nintendo games. I've never finished a single one of them, but I love them all the same. They're great to play, they're great pick-up-and-play games. And then it moves on to probably my favorite game in the entire Castlevania series, which is Castlevania 4 on the Super Nintendo. Amazing, amazing game. Recently I picked up Castlevania Bloodlines. I love Castlevania Bloodlines. Excellent game on the Sega Genesis. And where it really showed its chops is basically around that time after Castlevania Bloodlines came out. The Castlevania series was considered to be a bit stale. That is until the PlayStation game Symphony of the Night came out. I don't currently have a copy of Symphony of the Night right now, an actual physical copy. I have it on my Xbox Live Arcade, and I've got a copy coming from eBay. But from that series, they came out with an amazing Game Boy Advance series of the same type of games. So you had Castlevania Circle of the Moon, Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, and Castlevania Area of Sorrow. Then from there, they came out with the amazing Nintendo DS series as well. So, series continued going. Also, there's one game, I don't own a copy of Castlevania Dracula X Rondo of Blood for the TurboGrafx 16 CD, but I do have the PSP version, Castlevania The Dracula X Chronicles. Amazing game. And for a while there, it kind of stopped. I had Castlevania for the N64, but it's not a great game. It's where the series kind of died. But they brought it back with their last 2 releases in the series. Well, last 2 I consider is Castlevania Lament of Innocence, and just last year, or it might have been the year before, Castlevania Lords of Shadow for the Xbox 360. Great game. So the second series I want to talk about is something that's kind of grown stale recently, but I've been a huge fan for a long time, and that is Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 1 for the Nintendo was an amazing game. I didn't get my copy originally. I actually just picked this up recently. $3 box complete. I was very happy with that. We've also got Final Fantasy 2 and Final Fantasy 3 for the Super Nintendo. Amazing games. Moved on then to my favorite game in the Final Fantasy series, which is Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation. This is a very important game in my opinion, because this was the first official licensed Nintendo release that showed up on the PlayStation, and it kind of brought a lot of gamers away from possibly buying an N64 and moved them to the PlayStation. Excellent game. Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, and then they re-released some of the Super Nintendo games. The first re-release was Final Fantasy Anthology, Final Fantasy Chronicles, which also includes a great copy of Chrono Trigger, and Final Fantasy Origins with the Japanese release of Final Fantasy II. The games continued, obviously. They came out with a number of PlayStation 2 releases, Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X-2, I really didn't like where the series went at this point, where they came out with the sequels to the individual game. And Final Fantasy XII, which you saw in an earlier video, I love. Also, the system moved across to the Nintendo DS as well, with Final Fantasy III, the Japanese version. This was the first time I played it. I've finished all the Final Fantasy games except for the Japanese copy of Final Fantasy II and Final Fantasy V, but I finished all of the American releases. And Final Fantasy IV on the DS. And of course the games that are going to get the most heat in this series are Final Fantasy 13 for the PS3 and Final Fantasy 13 2. And my number one favorite all-time series, video game series, is The Legend of Zelda. I love The Legend of Zelda. I've finished every single Legend of Zelda game except for Minish Cap on the Game Boy Advance and also the two Oracle Ages and Oracle of Seasons games. So I have both Zelda and Link on the NES. Link I only finished this year. It was the first time I ever got around to finishing it. It's a very hard game. My favorite Zelda game in the series, which is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. Amazing game. I just found out they're making a sequel for the 3DS. Can't wait to see what that's like. We've also got Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo 64. Two amazing games: Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time. And then it moved to the GameCube, and we had the Wind Waker, which a lot of people were kind of taken back by because it kind of went away from the Ocarina of Time standard, but Wind Waker was an amazing game, cel-shaded, beautiful, and one of the cool things was they came out with a lot of promotional discs around the same time. So you've got your Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Ocarina of Time Master Quest. I read somewhere that the Master Quest on this disc was actually supposed to be what the Nintendo disk drive copy was going to be in Japan. You've also got the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition promotional disc. Anybody who's interested in playing some of the older Zelda games that doesn't currently have them through the Virtual Console, if you can pick this disc up pretty cheap. This has got the first two Zelda games on it, Legend of Zelda and Link. It's also got the Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. And then we move into the Wii copies, where you've got Twilight Princess, which I thought was an amazing game, and also Skyward Sword, which I'm currently playing through right now. But one of the great things about Zelda was it wasn't just their home system copies that were great. Also, you had their Game Boy copies as well. So I've got Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, Link's Awakening for the Game Boy Color DX, and Oracle of Seasons. I'm still missing Minish Cap and Oracle of Ages. That will complete my Zelda collection. Anyways, these are my 3 favorite game franchises of all time, and I think the top 3 game franchises of all time. Thanks edt1138, Top 3 Tuesday, and thanks Thrift. Great job. So anyways, I hope you enjoy, and thank you very much.